All right. Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is the info session for the first year abroad program to Peru. We're just going to give it another minute or so, see if we have any other folks coming. We had a number more who had RSVP'd, so we may have a couple latecomers. So hang tight for a minute or two, and then we will get started. And I can say this too, once we do get started, we'll all sort of introduce ourselves, the people in charge of the program, but then we'll have each of you introduce yourselves as well too, just a quick, what your name is, what you're majoring in, and maybe just a reason why you're interested in the program. So just kind of be thinking about that. But yeah, hang tight for 1 minute and then we'll get going officially. For this info session on the first year abroad program to Peru. My name is Scott Ozorowski. I work in the study abroad office and I help coordinate all of the first year study abroad programs. So we're really glad to hear that you're interested in the program. I'm going to have Christy and Mildred introduce themselves as the program leaders, and then we'll have each of you just introduce yourself. If you're able to turn your camera on when you introduce yourself, it'd be great to see you. If not, understood. But yeah, go ahead, Christy and Mildred.
Yeah, so I'm Christy, or Dr. Klimas, but normally Christy, and I am delighted to be leading this program again with Mildred. And Scott always corrects me when I say how many times I've done this. I think I've led this trip 3 times in the past, and then I had an almost lead right prior to COVID when the world shut down. And so I'm thrilled to be back. I also lead a program that's to Peru that's not just for first year students, but this one is really fun and I have a great time. And I'll tell you more about the content both before we go to Peru and during our trip as we go forward.
And you're absolutely right. You have led it 3 times, almost.
Nice. So hi everyone, I am Mildred Santiago. I originally came to DePaul, well, I came to DePaul 4 years ago and I started at the art school. I'm now with the Gray School of Applied Diplomacy. And I'm so excited to join you. Potentially, I hope you guys have applied and are really interested in this class. It is my first teaching experience, but I am so excited to basically support Christy in her teaching. And so I am bilingual. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so that's something that I think can be very helpful to the class. So there's that connection with the language in Peru. So just very excited and looking forward to hopefully meeting you all in class.
Wonderful. All right, and like I said, let's have each of you just quickly name, major, and then what made you interested in this program, just very briefly. And we'll go, I'll kind of go through an order on my screen here. Mariana, then Elizabeth, then Emma to start.
Hi, my name is Mariana. My major is history, and I applied to this program because I thought it was really interesting, and I've always had interest in traveling to South American and Central American countries. My parents are from Mexico, so I am bilingual, and I just would like to get enriched with a bunch of other cultures that are from that hemisphere.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm Elizabeth. I am an accounting major, a freshman, I guess everyone is, and the main reason I wanted to try to take this opportunity is because one, I want to travel, and then I also work at a roastery, and we work with like coffee from Peru, so it'd be neat to see that side of things.
Excellent. We might visit a roastery prior to departure too.
Kira afterwards.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm a finance major and I was interested in the class just based on the topic, and I really love to travel, so I thought it was a really good experience.
Fantastic.
Hi, Hi, I'm Kira. Yes, I'm a business management major, and this specific study abroad course kind of interested me the most. I love coffee and chocolate, so obviously the title caught my eye. But also when I read the description, it sounded really interesting. And I'm also Mexican, so I would love to like travel more to South America and just experience different cultures around there.
Fantastic. So we're both addicts then to coffee and chocolate. Good.
Yes.
Good to know we have that in common.
And then Alex.
Hi everyone, I'm Selena. I'm also a finance major, and I'm also considering being a Spanish minor. I wanted to join this because I've always wanted to travel to like a Spanish speaking country, especially after learning it for so long in school, and just I love learning about different cultures. So that's part of the reason. And also I'm a barista, so Starbucks barista. So I also just like I love coffee as well and chocolate. So I just thought it was a good pair.
Fantastic. Selena and anyone else who is a major or minor in Spanish, feel free to reach out to me. There are scholarships available directly through the Spanish department, and Dr. Rocio Ferreira would be the person, like the point of contact, but they have money for majors and minors to travel.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm an animation major, and I was very interested in this abroad program because of the ethics behind like food and also how we get these things. And I'm very interested in the communities that do make the exports. And Peru is just a beautiful place. I'd love to go.
Excellent.
Screen now, so we can kind of we're going to go through a short presentation with some photos, kind of give you some detailed information. And along the way, you know, any questions that you might have, feel free to just unmute yourself or throw something in the chat and we will address those. But we'll definitely have time at the end for questions as well. So, all right. Yeah, so we've done our introduction. So that's us. Christy and Mildred will be the two people leading the program, teaching the class and leading you to Peru. And I'll be sort of behind the scenes in the study abroad office, having a lot of communication with you and helping them plan some logistical things. And in terms of the courses, just real quickly, so this is your focal point seminar course. For most students, you are required to do a focal point seminar course in your first year at DePaul. So by doing this program, you get credit for this focal point seminar. And then you do an additional course that's a 2-credit course, which does not meet you. Basically, the additional 2 credits is your time abroad. So while you're in Chicago, you'll be taking the focal point seminar, meeting every week, doing normal assignments and such. And then while you're abroad, you'll have some other additional assignments associated with that study abroad part of it. And you get an extra 2 credits for that program, for that course. If any of you are in majors where you don't need a focal point seminar, there are a few majors that don't require that. Be in touch with me and I will be in touch with you after you're accepted. And we will basically register you in a way where you actually will be able to get experiential learning credit for this instead of your focal point seminar. So just know that if you don't need that for your major, we'll be able to get you an additional different credit instead. So. But then, yeah, Christy, why don't you talk a little bit about the course and then we'll sort of go into you sort of talking about the program.
Great. So I'm really excited about the course, and both the pre-departure and the in Peru components. So I'll talk first a little bit about the pre-departure components of the course. So we look into, I would say we have a 2-pronged approach, really 3-pronged, and Mildred will talk about the third piece, which is preparing to go to Peru. But the first part of the course is partly to get us acclimated to Peru as a country. So what the government's like, what the different regions are, and some of the, historical challenges that are, and benefits that are part of what we'll encounter when we get to Peru. And then there's the other piece, which is the coffee and chocolate and really the supply chain side of things. And I'm really excited. We're going to hear from someone who worked on sustainability, mostly in the Ivory Coast, actually, but with Mars, the big chocolate company. And then we oftentimes go to different businesses. We've gone to Metropolis Coffee in the past. They're a fair and direct trade coffee roastery. So this, we meet for a 3-hour period so that we can do some different trips to the Chicago businesses that look at ethical trade, particularly coffee and chocolate, but sometimes we mix in something else there too. And all of you become experts in a particular commodity during our 10-week course, and then present your research to all of us in a final poster symposium near the end of the course. And now I'll turn it over to Mildred to talk about the global preparation component.
Yes, thank you so much, Christy. So in the global aspect, like what we cover is essentially different categories that help us like approach our trip in a very mindful way, I would say. And so we definitely discuss things like, you know, cultural values, stereotypes, group dynamics, and responsibilities are a huge component as well, because we're traveling as a group. And especially like for me, it's one of the first times I would be potentially traveling with such a big group. So I do have to learn a lot myself. And so this is a lot of back and forth as well. We're going to have a lot of fun and open discussions about what these things mean, especially to travel in groups, perceptions of America, perceptions, you know, of America abroad. How can we understand those things, but also be sensitive to perceptions of others towards us? And so the idea essentially is to capture all the little elements that come together when we travel so that we can have a full, like a rich, healthy cultural experience that's like where we're learning, not just visiting and being there and observing, but really interacting and absorbing the experience in really positive ways.
Fantastic. And, you know, when we finish that at DePaul piece, then we head abroad. And we have visited with multiple artisans. So on the top left corner is a family, and the señor was, he has been acknowledged globally because of his gourd production. So I'm happy to, I think I have in my office, some gourds, but not the most spectacular gourds. So he's so good at carving these gourds that he's won international awards, and he's trained most of his community to carve gourds as well. So we'll look at some artisan work. The top right-hand picture is some ceramic artisans that we visit in the outskirts of Lima. On the bottom left-hand side, we have jewelry production, and then more ceramics. So these are all places that we might visit. We've always have a suite of artisans that we visit in addition to other stops. Next slide. And this, even though the setting might be a little different when we have it, normally we have Pachamanca, which is you actually like build a deep pit and then you heat rocks, and then you know, you take food and you put it in between those rocks. And so here you can see some legumes. That might be chicken, it might be guinea pig, which is a regional delicacy. You're welcome to try guinea pig. We can definitely work it into the trip, but I totally understand if you love a particular guinea pig and might not, you know, want to participate in that opportunity, also fine. So this is, you know, and potatoes and corn and cheese also go in this. And so then it cooks for hours and hours and hours. And we tend to show up right near the end when it's almost done cooking. And we've done ceramics, painting ceramics while we wait for Pachamanca, and, you know, other practice as artisans. And then we enjoy this very traditional meal. This is some of the central areas of Lima, and we'll do a city tour while we're there, partially to put the, you know, sort of put some of the differences between Peru and the US in context, and also to better understand the way in which Peru operates, which is really important for, you know, some of the supply chain issues that we'll discuss. And then this is an en route to Aguascalientes, which is our launching spot for Machu Picchu. And on the left-hand side, we're in Cusco. The middle side, we're actually not even in Ollantaytambo, but we're having a group meal. And I think that was 2014 or 2016. And then on the very right-hand side, there's visiting natural textile production. And we saw some of the finished products as well, but all of those are made with alpaca or actual sheep wool, sometimes vicuña. There's three different alpaca-looking creatures, llamas, alpacas, and vicuñas. Vicuñas have the softest fur and natural dyes. And so we saw the production of some of those textiles while we were there. And then the final, or maybe not the final slide, but the next slide is a group of students in Machu Picchu, which is, I hear, a highlight of the trip. And it is, one of the 7 wonders of the world. It's pretty spectacular there. And we've had great luck in visiting it. So we do a tour around Machu Picchu, in part because it's hard to, even if you're looking at supply chain issues, which are fascinating in and of themselves, it's hard to go to Peru and not visit Machu Picchu. And then, Scott, do you want to do this or you want me to do this?
Yeah, I will do this, but anything else that you want to sort of talk about first about the itinerary and such, or?
I'm happy to answer any questions that people have on the itinerary. We actually, it's more or less set, although we sometimes switch some things up at the last minute in terms of who we visit. I believe actually this time we're visiting cacao production, sort of a chocolate final production site on the outskirts of Lima. And Scott asked if I can talk a little bit about the current political situation. So right now, if we had to leave and arrive in Lima today, I didn't check the news this morning, but there were plans to be protests at the Capitol. And so I just want to let everyone know that we, if it is unsafe to travel to Peru, we will not travel to Peru. But right now I've talked with Yanina, who is our partner on the ground, and she and I are both, relatively confident and optimistic that things will settle down. So very recently, there was in the last election cycle, a president was elected, and honestly, this was pretty good news. He was elected and he was from the rural areas of Peru. And it's very rare to have representatives from some of the rural areas of Peru. Lima, which has a population of about 10 million people, is the epicenter of most of the political activity and most of the focus of the governance as well. So it was very exciting to get a political outsider as president. That said, he tried to disband the Congress and take over the country to try to rewrite a new constitution. Others have done that in the past. Both successful, but in different ways. So the first time this happened actually led to a dictatorship. And likely because of that, people were very concerned about this. And so they impeached the president. This is concerning for some of the rural populations because they elected him because they want to see change. And even though the vice president is also from a rural area, she has said that the way that he was trying to take power was not appropriate, has called for new congressional elections. And now it's up to Congress to approve that expedited congressional and presidential election. It is likely that Congress will do this relatively soon, and then protests will subside. That said, I and others are watching the situation pretty closely.
Thank you so much,
Maybe
Christy.
more than you wanted, Scott? Was that
No, that's exactly what I wanted. So, and as Christy said, we have a partner in Peru that we've worked with for a number of years who helps coordinate all of our logistics and everything on the ground. Really, really trusted partner who is very much helping us kind of work through situations like this when they arise. The good news is this program is still not happening for another 5 months. So it's something in our study abroad office, for all of our programs in all locations in the world, we're always monitoring the situations and working together to figure out what's safe and what's not. And as Christy said, all things indicate that hopefully by the time that we are going there in June, the situation will be much more resolved and settled. So thank you, Christy.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to talk for just a couple slides about some of the logistical things. So the application deadline for the program is February 1st. I know some of you have already started your application and even some of you have completed and submitted it. So thank you for that. If you have not, basically you just go to the Peru program page and there's a blue button that says apply now. Click on that button and it'll start you with the application process. You basically just have to fill out a little application questionnaire that has a handful of short answer questions. And when you're done with that, you submit it. And then the one other thing that we ask for is one academic recommendation. It can be from a DePaul professor ideally, but since you're newer to DePaul, if you don't have somebody here at DePaul that's able to do that for you, you could reach out to a high school teacher or counselor. But from DePaul, hopefully, whether it's your Discover Explore professor or someone else, you've got someone, but if not, could be high school. They do not need to write you like a big recommendation letter. All you do is in the application online, there's a place where you go into this, you enter their email address, and it sends them a little link to a very brief online recommendation they do. So it is not a stressful thing. It does not take them very long, but sometimes it can take people a little while to actually get to that and do it. So please don't leave that until the last day in January when you send that to them. Send them the request now. Give them lots of time to just get it done and submit it. And that's all. After that point, Christy and Mildred will be in touch with everybody who has applied, and they'll be doing some brief interviews. And I think you do group interviews, right, Christy? Yep. So in small groups. So you'll be able to just, it's a short little 20-30 minutes where they're going to ask people a few questions and just get to know you a little bit. So once you are done with your application, as we approach that February 1st deadline, please be on the lookout for email. There will be signups for when you want to sign up for your group interview. And then after that, we will notify people if they've been accepted or not. And that will happen in like mid to late February. We're not sure how many people will apply. We have spots for 20 people on the program. This has been a relatively popular program in the past, so there is a chance that we'll have more people apply than there will be spots available. So if that happens, we'll accept as many people as we're able to. There will be some people on a wait list. And then there are typically some people who may have been accepted who don't take their spot, and we're able to move some people on the wait list in. We also do have 3 other first-year abroad programs happening this summer. So in your application, there is a part where you can talk about backup second choice programs. So if you're open to one of the other programs, let us know that as well. And if you do end up on the wait list, we could see if there's a spot on one of the other programs. Our goal is to be able to have everybody be able to do one of the programs, hopefully their first choice, but if not, potentially one of the second choices. I'll also mention, I'm going to talk about costs in a second. We do have scholarship funding for these programs, the first year programs, special first year study abroad scholarships. There is no separate application or anything that you need to do. As long as you submit your Peru application by February 1st, you'll automatically be considered for the study abroad scholarship funding. We award those scholarships based on 2 criteria, basically. Financial need. We work closely with the financial aid department to make sure we understand the financial situation for all the students who've applied. And then academic progress, so your GPA. So a student who has strong financial need and a strong GPA is going to be the most likely to get a scholarship and a larger scholarship. We have a pool of money and we do our best to try to award funding to as many students as possible who need it. Those scholarships range from the smallest, which are still $1,000, up to potentially almost the full cost of the program for some students. So I always say to students, if finances are an issue, apply to the program, see if you get accepted. Right after your acceptance, you will get then within a day or 2 a scholarship notification that lets you know if you got a study abroad scholarship, and if so, how much it's for. And then you'll have a couple of weeks to decide what you want to do. And if you'd like to move forward, great. If you're not able to move forward for whatever reason, you just let us know. And that's when we would then move to somebody on the wait list. So there's no commitment. You just apply, see if you get accepted, see what kind of scholarship you get, and go from there. So in terms of cost, the cost of the program fee is $2,750. So it's most of our first year abroad programs are around $3,000. This one's a little bit on the cheaper end. So even if you get that smallest scholarship, which is the $1,000, it's more than a third of the cost of the program. So hopefully that makes a very big impact on being able to afford it. The nice thing about it is that program fee pretty much covers everything. It's your round trip airfare, all your accommodations, with the exception of one lunch. It's all of your meals, breakfast, lunch, dinners for the entire program, all the activities, transportation, everything you do. We also enroll you in international travel, health, and accident insurance. So pretty much the only thing above that you need to spend is just personal spending money on things that you might do on your own time. You also do get enrolled in 6 credit hours for this program that will be in the spring quarter. So you'll just want to plan your schedule accordingly. As long as you're at 18 hours or less, just like any other quarter, you don't pay extra tuition. It's just your normal undergraduate tuition that you're paying. If for some reason you're registered in more credit hours and you go over 18 credit hours, then you would have to pay additional tuition for those additional credits. Again, just like you would any quarter if you overloaded. So what I tell students is, as you're going to do your spring registration, basically sign up for 3 classes or whatever. If you have labs or anything, sign up for 12 credit hours worth of coursework yourself. And then if you're accepted into the program, Study Abroad will enroll you in this coursework. You can't do it yourself. So you enroll yourself in up to 12. We enroll you in the additional 6, and then that makes sure you don't go over 18. If you do want to go over 18 because you need to for a certain reason, that's of course fine, but just know that you do have extra tuition if you go over to 18 credit hours. Yeah, and that's that. So for questions, I'm the one to kind of contact if you have questions about sort of logistical application process or any sort of logistical things. Professor Klimas would be the one to talk to about anything related to the program or the class itself, and we're happy to answer any questions down the road as well. But we're here now to answer any questions you might have. You can unmute yourself or put something in the chat. And also we will stick around if you have an individual question that you'd like to just ask us sort of one-on-one afterwards. But yeah, any questions from anyone? Yeah, Kira, go ahead.
Okay, so right now I'm currently in a focal point seminar. Would I still be able to take this course?
Yeah, what you can do is this, if you apply for this program and get accepted, what we would do, and I sort of mentioned this at the beginning, is we would enroll you in a special section of it where you would get experiential learning credit. So every once in a while, we do have a student in your situation who was already doing a focal point in winter and then hadn't realized, or then was like, oh shoot, but I want to do this program. So we'll enroll you, you'll do the same class, you'll be with everybody else, but you would just get experiential learning credit instead of focal point seminar credit.
Okay, and then also, where exactly do we stay or live in Peru?
Oh yeah, Christy, why don't you?
Good question. So we shift places a lot. So the first place that we start is in Barranco, which it means cliff in Spanish, and it is actually on a cliff overlooking the ocean. There's a bridge where you can walk down to a very rocky beach. So it's lovely. I would call it a bohemian type neighborhood. And there's a plaza where you can walk around, and there's, shops and street vendors and things like that. So it's pretty neat. It's also very residential, and it's a lovely part of Peru. So that's really fun. It's a retreat center, so we're a little more limited there in terms of the times that we have to be back in the lodging and things like that. But there's a lovely garden where you can sit there in hammocks and look at the ocean. Then we go to let's see. So we stay in Cusco. We stay one night in Aguascalientes. And I feel like we stay in Pisac, which is almost to Ollantaytambo, which is where we get on a train and we get partway to Aguascalientes for our Machu Picchu component of the trip. So we shift hotels a fair amount. All of them are beautiful, and have much to recommend them. And we're all, Aguascalientes is very touristy. That's why we only stay there one night. But we do shift a lot. So between the retreat center and the different hotels, that's where we stay. So no need to worry about camping if that was a concern.
Okay, thank you.
So we're on 10 days total.
Yeah, and we leave on June 12th. Our flight would leave at 1:50 p.m. from Chicago, and we come back on the 22nd of June around 2 p.m.
Other questions about the course, about the travel, any of the logistics or application side of things? Well, look at that. We answered everything we needed to answer, I guess. So, all right. Well, thank you all for being here. For those of you who have applied already, thank you. If you haven't, make sure to get that in. Please don't wait until January 31st to do it. So just get it in, get your recommendation submitted so they've got some time to work on that. And then, yeah, I am going to post a recording of this. It'll go on the homepage for the Peru program. So probably by tomorrow afternoon, I'll have that posted, and I'll send an email to everybody who's applied to let them know, but it'll just be right on the homepage. You'll see it there. So. But if you have any additional questions, feel free to stick around. But otherwise, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to hearing more from all of you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Of the course.